They called her broken and relegated her to the armory. But when 6 elite Navy SEALs were trapped in a death valley with no way out, 38-year-old Maya Santos grabbed her rifle and climbed into the mountains alone. What happened next defied every law of physics and military protocol. Impossible shots from 1,800 meters that turned the tide of battle and created a legend that would haunt enemy forces for years to come. Quick pause before we continue. Tell us, where in the world are you watching from? If you're enjoying these stories, make sure to hit subscribe because tomorrow's episode is absolutely mind-blowing. The radio crackled with desperation at Forward Operating Base Phoenix. Alpha 8 going dark. We're pinned. No visual on shooter. 6 elite Navy SEALs were trapped in a narrow ravine with bullets raining down from 3 directions. Their exits were gone, their snipers were down, and death was closing in fast. Then something impossible happened. A single rifle shot split the night air, traveling over 1,800 meters to find its mark with surgical precision. The enemy machine gunner on the eastern ridge simply crumpled, his weapon falling silent. 10 seconds later, another shot. Another impossible hit. The trapped SEALs exchanged bewildered glances as their radio sparked to life. Phantom 7 active, providing overwatch. Stand by for extraction window. 18 hours earlier at FOB Phoenix, Maya Santos moved through the armory with practiced efficiency. At 38 years old, she cut an unremarkable figure among young warriors preparing for deployment. Her left hand trembled slightly as she adjusted the specialized medical wrap around her wrist. Advanced magnetic therapy technology for chronic nerve injuries. Most soldiers barely noticed her existence. Just another support staff member keeping their gear functional while they did the real fighting. Corporal Jackson, fresh from sniper school and full of untested confidence, watched Maya work with barely concealed disdain. "Hey, Williams," he called loud enough for everyone to hear. "Looks like they're letting anyone handle our weapons now, even old ladies who can barely lift them." What Jackson didn't notice was how Maya's eyes briefly closed. Not in hurt, but in practiced patience of someone who'd endured far worse. He didn't see how her fingers traced the rifle's surface with intimacy that spoke of muscle memory earned through countless hours under fire. Captain Davis entered the armory, his expression shifting when he noticed Maya working alone. Unlike younger soldiers, Davis recognized the signs, the hypervigilance, precise movements despite obvious injury, the way she flinched imperceptibly at sudden noises. He'd seen her personnel file, or rather, the parts that weren't redacted with thick black lines. "Santos," he called, his voice carrying respect the others missed. "Need you to double-check scope alignments. Alpha 8 is heading out tonight." That afternoon, Jackson continued his performance. "You know what I heard? She got transferred here because she couldn't hack it in a real unit. Probably got people killed." The words hung in the air like poison gas. Maya's hand paused on the rifle she was inspecting, knuckles whitening slightly. For a moment, something dangerous flickered in her gray eyes. The cold calculation of someone deciding whether violence was worth the consequences. Then she set the rifle down with deliberate care and faced Jackson directly. "You're right," she said quietly. "How'd get people killed? 3 of them. Their names were Rodriguez, Chun, and Williams. Would you like to know how they died?" The armory fell silent. Jackson's smirk faltered, but his ego wouldn't let him back down. "Sure. Tell us your sob story." Maya pulled up her left sleeve, revealing a forearm covered in what looked like random scars, but on closer inspection formed a pattern. "These aren't random," she said, tracing one with her finger. "They're grid coordinates. I carved them myself with metal from a destroyed vehicle while held for 48 hours in a Taliban compound. The location of their forward base, weapons caches, and where they buried captured Americans." She rolled her sleeve back down. "The intelligence I provided led to the largest special operations raid of 2019. 57 enemy eliminated. 4 American prisoners recovered alive. But I was 3 minutes too late to save my own team." Captain Davis stepped forward. "That's enough. Santos, I need to see you in my office." As they walked through corridors, Davis kept glancing at Maya. "You didn't have to tell him that." "No," she agreed. "But that boy is deploying tonight into the same sector where I lost my team. If my story makes him less cocky, maybe he comes home alive." Davis stopped walking and really looked at her. This small woman with trembling hands who'd somehow survived what killed so many others. Your file mentions Unit 7. That a designation I've only seen twice in 20 years. Unit 7 didn't officially exist. It was a ghost unit of the military's most lethal precision shooters who operated so far in shadows that their missions were never acknowledged. Maya had been their youngest member and only woman, recruited at 26 after a shot in Fallujah that saved an entire Marine platoon from 1,400 meters through a sandstorm. They called her Ghost Eye then, back when her hands were steady and hearing perfect, back when she believed skill and dedication were enough to keep everyone alive. "I need a favor," Davis said. "Alpha 8's mission tonight. Something feels wrong. The intelligence is too clean, too perfect. Like a trap," Maya finished. "Yes, I've been reading the same reports. The pattern is identical to what we saw before my team was hit." Davis pulled out a tablet showing mission parameters. "I can't officially change anything without concrete evidence. But if someone were to monitor the operation from here, someone with experience in pattern recognition." Maya studied the map, her mind calculating distances and angles. "I'll need access to long-range communications array, and someone needs to make sure my old equipment is still functional." As night fell, Alpha 8 prepared for insertion. Jackson, his earlier bravado dampened, meticulously checked his rifle. The mission seemed straightforward. Infiltrate a suspected Taliban command post, gather intelligence, and extract before dawn. But as their helicopters lifted off, Maya sat in a forgotten corner of the communications building, surrounded by equipment most people didn't know existed. She'd retrieved a hard case from personal storage, revealing a Barrett M107 rifle that hadn't seen light in 3 years. 3 small notches were carved into the stock, one for each teammate she'd failed to save. The patterns were there if you knew how to look, subtle anomalies in enemy communication patterns, intelligence too perfect that suggested someone was baiting a trap. She tried to warn Alpha 8 through official channels, but the mission was already in motion. So Maya did what she'd always done when official channels failed. She improvised. At exactly 2:47 a.m., Maya reached the position she'd identified, a natural hide among weathered rocks offering clear lines of sight into the valley while remaining invisible from below. Ranging data materialized in her mind. 1,847 meters to primary machine gun position, 12 mph crosswind from west, 71% humidity, elevation difference of 287 meters. The Barrett scope came alive with thermal imaging as she settled into a shooting position her body remembered. Through the lens, the battlefield spread out like a chessboard where death was winning. The enemy had positioned themselves with disturbing professionalism. 3 machine gun nests controlled high ground, their interlocking fields of fire creating a kill zone that would shred anyone trying to escape. Her first shot will be most important. Not the commander. That would come later. First, she needed to create doubt, introduce chaos into their coordinated assault. The rifle's report shattered mountain silence as her bullet traveled through night air, striking the enemy's forward air controller's equipment. Not a kill shot, but something far more valuable. A wounded enemy screaming in confusion, his ability to coordinate the attack destroyed. What the hell was that? Jackson's voice crackled through intercepted communications as enemy fire suddenly became erratic. The second shot came 40 seconds later, striking the ammunition feed on the eastern machine gun position. The weapon jammed catastrophically. Sergeant Mitchell, the SEAL team leader, recognized the opportunity immediately. Covering fire. Easter approach. Someone's giving us a window. The battle's rhythm changed as Maya worked her craft with methodical precision. Each shot was chosen not just for immediate tactical effect, but for psychological impact. She wounded when killing would have been easier, disabled equipment instead of operators, created impression of multiple shooters. The Taliban commander, increasingly frantic, made the fatal error of stepping into clear view. Maya's crosshairs found him as naturally as breathing. 1,934 meters through Mount Air, a shot that would have been impossible for all but a handful of shooters in the world. The commander's fall created the chaos Maya had been orchestrating. Without centralized leadership, Taliban forces began making individual decisions driven by self-preservation rather than tactical advantage. In that confusion, Alpha 8 found their escape route. Jackson led the breakout, while Mitchell coordinated their fighting withdrawal. The next 20 minutes became a deadly symphony as impossibly accurate fire seemed to clear Alpha 8's path. Enemy fighters fell or fled before they could bring effective fire on the retreating SEALs. Phantom 7, this is Alpha 8 actual, Mitchell transmitted. I don't know who you are, but we're almost clear. Can you confirm our extraction route is secure? Maya broke her silence. Alpha 8, Phantom 7. Negative on primary extraction. Secondary force moving to intercept. Recommend alternative route follows ridge line south. I'll provide covering fire. But Maya's tactical awareness painted a grim picture. The enemy had deployed a quick reaction force. At least 18 fresh fighters who knew she was out there somewhere. Alpha 8, Phantom 7, she transmitted again. Be advised, enemy QRF is converging on my position. I'm going to give them something to chase. You'll have clear passage to extraction in 6 minutes. Mitchell's response was immediate. Negative, Phantom 7. We don't leave anyone behind. She cut him off. You have 10 minutes to reach minimum safe distance. After that, things are going to get loud. Phantom 7 out. The Barrett sang its deadly song 4 more times, each shot deliberately revealing her muzzle flash to searching enemy forces. As the first enemy fighters crested the ridge 150 meters from her position, she was already moving, leaving behind the Barrett, a warrior's farewell to the weapon that had served its final purpose. The next hour became a deadly game of cat and mouse through the Afghan mountains. Maya led the pursuing Taliban force on a chase that took them steadily away from Alpha 8's extraction route. By 4 a.m., Alpha 8 had reached their extraction point and lifted off. Every member alive. Jackson sat in the cargo bay, hands still shaking, trying to process what had happened. Who was Phantom 7? He asked Mitchell. The sergeant shook his head, staring out at dark mountains. I don't know, son. But whoever they were, they just traded their life for ours. 48 hours later, a recovery team found the site of Maya's last stand. 9 enemy bodies scattered across a 250-meter area, spent brass from multiple weapons, blood trails indicating she'd been wounded, but kept fighting. They found the Barrett from her initial position, its scope still perfectly zeroed. Next to it, a single sheet of paper covered in coded writing. When cryptographers broke the code, it contained detailed intelligence on Taliban positions and supply routes. At the bottom, written in plain English, accounts balanced. Ghost out. Captain Davis stood in the empty armory where Maya had spent countless hours maintaining weapons for warriors who'd never known her story. Jackson appeared in the doorway, no longer the cocky young operator who'd mocked a quiet woman with trembling hands. The intelligence she left, it's checking out. Every single source, every position. She mapped the entire enemy network while working in this armory. Davis nodded slowly. She never stopped being an operator corporal. She just found a different way to fight. The official record would list Maya Santos as missing in action. But in the mountains of Afghanistan, Taliban fighters began telling stories of a ghost who could strike from impossible distances. They called her the Mountain Spirit, a guardian that haunted those who laid ambushes for coalition forces. Jackson kept a small ritual his squad mates never understood. Before every mission, he'd check his rifle one extra time and whisper, "For Phantom 7. The tradition spread quietly through the special operations community, a tribute to the unknown protector who'd proved that heroes don't always wear uniforms. In the mountains of Afghanistan, on frequencies that shouldn't exist, brief transmissions continued containing intelligence that proved eerily accurate. Always signed the same way, Phantom 7 still watching. Don't forget subscribe to She-Force Tales.